Hey, welcome to Revelation TV in Calvary Chapel, San Jacinto. Just want to update you on a few things. And right now we're looking at the temple that is going to be built on the Temple Mount. Revelation chapter 11 verses 1 and 2 says this. John is writing, "Then I was given a reed like a measuring rod, and the angel stood saying, 'Rise and measure the temple of God, the altar, and those who worship there. But leave out the court which is outside the temple, and do not measure it, for it has been given to the Gentiles, and they will tread the holy city underfoot for 42 months. For 3.5 years, the Gentiles will tread the holy city." But the Bible tells us that the temple is going to be built. There's going to be a third temple, also known as the Tribulation Temple. It's the temple that the Antichrist is going to desecrate, set up the abomination of desolation, as Daniel the prophet says, and also as Jesus prophesies will come to pass. But not only does God say it's going to happen, there are men in Jerusalem, many men in Jerusalem, that want that temple built. The reason they want it built is different than the reason why we see it needing to be built. But the reason they want it built is so they can begin their sacrifices again, because they know that the Bible is very clear, the Old Testament, the law, that they must have these sacrifices, the sacrifice of blood, in order to be forgiven of their sins. But since they don't believe in Jesus Christ as being the Messiah, the perfect sacrifice, they want to build that temple. And it's that temple that the enemy, the Antichrist, will desecrate, commit the abomination of desolation, and wreak havoc for Israel. But there's some problems. We look at the times that we're in. It looks like Jesus is going to be coming soon. We don't know when he's going to come. But how is the temple going to be built? An enormous problem with the temple is that there's a Dome of the Rock mosque that is on the Temple Mount. Well, how will the Jews get around that problem of the Dome of the Rock mosque? If they blow it up, there's going to be a war from 1.3 billion Muslims that will come against all of those Jews throughout the whole world, so that's not really an option. Perhaps the Dome of the Rock mosque could collapse in an earthquake, which could or could not benefit the Jews, or perhaps there's another solution. Well, I want to encourage you. I talked about all of these things in a recent message I did, and I'll get to that in just a minute. But also on the horizon right now, just fresh out within the last few days, Benjamin Netanyahu has announced that Ezekiel 37 has officially been fulfilled. Ezekiel 37 prophesying that God's people, the Jews, would return from all nations throughout the world and resettle in Israel. And he just said just the other day, Benjamin Netanyahu, Prime Minister of Israel, that this has been fulfilled. Interesting, because the next thing that takes place after Ezekiel 37 that we read in connection with the book of Ezekiel and last days prophecies would be Ezekiel 38 and the war of Gog Magog. Except, however, there's something that many scholars believe happens in between the fulfillment of Ezekiel 37 and 38. And that is the war of Psalm 83. And what makes this so fascinating, this is a time, Psalm 83, that Israel will capture a lot of land that's been given over to the people in Gaza and Palestinians in various areas as certain nations come against them. And in the process, they will have peace in their land. It could be this that brings about the building of the Temple Mount. Watch and be ready. It's going to be interesting, because on February 11th, Prime Minister of Iran says he has news that's going to shock and shake the whole world. Be watching. Be ready. Listen, I'm going to be talking about those things next week, and of course this coming Sunday night, February 7th, I'm going to talk about Benjamin Netanyahu's announcement and Psalm 83 as we continue through Revelation chapter 11. But if you want to get the details on these things, you can also go back to the last 3 Sunday nights, January 31st and then the 2 Sunday nights before this. And we look at the Temple Mount, the problems there, the issues going on with Muslims, the threats against the Jews. Till then, God bless you. Hope to see you next time.